Hello everyone and welcome to SDG Live. We are here at the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos, Switzerland, where we are bringing conversations that are happening from the forum directly to all of you, helping to support conversations about the SDGs, about what the UN is doing for global development, and around what the forum is doing for international cooperation and multilateralism. Today we're here specifically to talk about the important role that innovation and technology will play in driving progress on the SDGs. And I'm very pleased, to be joined by my two colleagues here, Mr. Johan Dennelind with the Telia company, which is a Scandinavian telecom company, and also with Mr. Zhenmin, who's the Undersecretary General for the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, or Desai, as we like to say for short. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
So I wonder if maybe Mr. Liu, if we can start with yourself. So it would be, I think, useful for our audience to hear a little bit more about what the UN is doing around issues of technology and innovation, and how is Desai thinking about these issues specifically as it relates to leaving no one behind and accomplishing the SDGs?
Thank you. First, I'd like to see that the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals is the most important agenda adopted by our leaders 2 years ago. It's a consolidated global consensus on sustainable development goals. You know, now I think the problem may be after 2 years, we could acknowledge there's still challenges for the implementation. So my Department of Economic and Social Affairs, provides the Secretariat for the implementation of 2030 Agenda. And we have conducted the voluntary national reviews. So far, the 115 countries have voluntarily presented their reviews. So from these reviews, we find the challenges and the gaps. I have suggested to the Secretary General that we may make good use of the next 2 years until 2020 to complete the first round of review of all the 193 members. We should say that by 2020, we should, through the first round of review, we should know the overall picture of member states in their implementation. This is, I think, what we are doing at the moment. Secondly, we know that in the implementation of SDGs, the role of science, technology, and innovation is on high profile, because for either both developed countries and developing countries, without further development of science, technology, especially innovation, I think they will have difficulties. That's why in the United Nations, one of the forums has been created 2 years ago, which is the Multi-Stakeholder Science, Technology, Innovation Forum. Has been created. We have had 2 sessions over the past 2 years, and we are going to have the 3rd session in forthcoming June. This is a forum open for all stakeholders, for all member states. I hope that really not only member states, the business sector, scientific community should play their role in promoting the implementation of SDGs.
That's great. Thank you so much. You spoke a little bit about the challenges that we face regarding technology and innovation, right? And I think from the public sector perspective, it's an interesting point to raise. And obviously, you mentioned governments are doing a lot to address that through their VNRs and the voluntary national reviews. I'm curious, though, Johan, if you can maybe speak to a little bit about these challenges that exist, and particularly potentially the unintended consequences of technological innovations, particularly as we're in a new day and age where it seems like there's a new technology every single day, right? So how do we keep up with emerging technologies, and how can the private sector specifically help the UN and other multilateral institutions to figure out how they stay ahead of the curve and kind of meet these challenges head on, and especially through some of the work you're doing with GSMA?
Right. Well, thanks for having me, and this is a really important time. I think in regards to the SDGs, we have created the awareness necessary, but we need now to go from awareness to impact. The industry I'm representing, and also the GSMA, we were the first industry out to support the SDGs as a full industry. And we were very early out as a company in a digitalized region to embrace these and say, here, we're not just a prerequisite for the SDGs to be realized, we actually have an opportunity to make this a core part of the way we do business. And if we don't do that, I don't think we will achieve the SDGs in the end anyway. Our industry is a platform for innovation and growth. We're 4% of the global GDP, over 20 millions of jobs directly and indirectly. So we need to take a bigger responsibility, which we're now coming out doing. One of the key things for us is to be the partner and platform for innovation to address each and every one of the SDGs. And there is enough out there to do it. So my kind of call is to get on to try to consumerize the SDGs. Make them understandable for the consumers so they realize what good they are doing every day, which they sometimes don't. And here you can create great partnerships and innovations and bring new services and products out. That's our approach. We have gone so far to come out with a statement of materiality from the board to our shareholders, saying that sustainable business, SDGs included, is a prerequisite for profitable growth.
Yeah.
So this is not a separate thing. This is a part of a company's DNA and strategy. Otherwise, we will not succeed.
Right. And Johan, to that point, so your Telia company's motto is bringing the world closer, right? Can you talk about this idea of connectivity and some of the partnerships and initiatives that you're leading as a company on that you're really excited about that kind of directly address this core purpose that you have as a company, but also your larger ambitions when it comes to creating a world that is more inclusive and brings more people together?
Let me give you two examples. One is more on the industry verticals that we're going after and going into with partnerships in the forefront. And it's creating smart cities, smart transportation. Here we have, of course, the technology platform, which is a prerequisite, but we have the skills and data that is also a prerequisite, and we have the demand from society, cities, and consumers to make things better. And when you package this together, we then can make services that people want and also want to pay for. So I think that's a clear example of verticals and product services that are created based on this symbiosis. Another part is more the internal engagement, where we have created a program called Unite, where I'm encouraging and expecting all my employees, 21,000 in the region, to 1 day per year be active specifically around a SDG with our partners to make clear differences to society, and then proving that actually it is one strategy, one activity. It's not a separate thing. So you're making that awareness and you create pride and you make impact. And that's unique for us. It creates engagement.
That's really exciting and great to hear that there's so much positive momentum that your company is driving. Mr. Liu, I wonder if we can kind of on the same theme talk a little bit about this idea of how we can address greater inclusion and connectivity, especially in the context of what we're talking about WEF this week. The theme of WEF is creating a shared future in a fractured world, right? So how do you think about these issues, particularly when you think about, yesterday Oxfam released a major report that came out that said we're living at a time when it's the greatest inequality we've ever seen in humanity, right? In humanity's history. So when you think about the digital divide, there's still, so many people who don't have access to basic services, but especially internet and technology services. And you think about the potential that technology and innovation can provide. How is the UN partnering with other organizations and with the private sector? And how are you thinking about your approach to solving some of these issues that are maybe not at the specific government member state level?
You see, actually, this digital divide has been one of the issues over the past years. Now, actually, especially when at the World Economic Forum, we're talking about this shared future for the world. I think this will be the joint efforts by all member states, all stakeholders. Actually, we are following the idea for this fourth industrial revolution. I hope that the fourth industrial revolution will bring benefits to all countries, will really stimulate the economic growth and bring all countries into the next stage of development. But at the same time, one thing we need to avoid that further widening the gap. Now I think for the digital divide, because they're very serious, because people are talking about in the world, in total, there'd be half a population not connected with the internet. This is very serious, especially in least developed countries. 1 from 10 people, they'll be just only connected.
Right.
So this is reality. But I think in the further development, especially we are talking about the shared future for the world.
Right.
We're talking about new development technologies. For all stakeholders, we should develop strategy to ensure that the further development of technology will not contribute to divide, but will contribute to share of benefits.
Right.
That's, I think, something we need to develop. That's where through the United Nations, through this multi-stakeholder science, technology, innovation forum, I think we're trying to develop kind of idea, some kind of value or some kind of partnership to ensure that the further development technology will give real benefits to all, to ensure that no one left behind.
Right.
For example, we need to develop kind of partnership to say that to incorporate all kinds of people into the process. Of course, this will require the cooperation among member states, among governments, to help, those have already been marginalized in the past process to be benefited from the internet process. At the same time, through the joint development of technology, especially new technology, artificial intelligence, robust technology, we need to ensure that they will bring benefits to all, not only to a group of people. That's, I think, is a big challenge for the business sector, for the scientific community. When you think of, I think, for the future of the world in a globalized society, we need to ensure that in addition to competition, that we should have more cooperation. For business sector, competition always the value and the principle to follow.
Right.
But we need to ensure that how the cooperation would collaborate with competition in the future.
Right.
Can I make a point on that? I think our mission must be to make sure the governments and other key stakeholders understand the power of digitalization and the meaning of digitalization for the competitiveness of the economies and for the benefits of the societies at large and people and addressing the SDGs. If governments understand that, they will also work more proactively to remove the barriers that do exist to have the optimal investment climate, for instance. So I think we're onto something hugely important, aligning the understanding of the opportunities, not just focus on the problems, because that's easy, but shift it to what is it that we have at hand now. And there are huge opportunities, as you mentioned, which I think most people are behind intellectually. But again, back to my earlier point, going from awareness now to impact requires actions from people with power and also from governments. So that's why, I mean, it's a key call for me as well when I'm here in Davos to ensure to make my points here.
Definitely. And you both spoke about this idea of interconnectedness and momentum for action. I think one of the other things important to note is that there is an SDG specifically on innovation, right? SDG 9 and innovation and infrastructure. But I think the other important thing that you've both kind of indirectly hinted at is that the SDGs all directly impact technology and innovation and are impacted by technology and innovation. So making gains in technology and innovation on gender will have effects on climate change, will have effects on everything else. And so it's exciting to hear that there's this understanding of that, but how do we create greater understanding and action on that agenda? Johan, you mentioned kind of the new and innovative technologies that are emerging, and Mr. Liu, you mentioned AI, specifically artificial intelligence. Are there any kind of big bets on technology or technological innovations that are coming out right now that you are particularly excited about, whether that's artificial intelligence or blockchain. Blockchain's all the rage nowadays. But are there anything else that you feel really excited about and that you think has potential to drive, really increased action on the SDGs?
I think it's really, for the multi-stakeholders, especially government, should be more proactive in promoting the further development of the technology. I think the big bets would be include, I think, a few elements. First is policy coherence. For governments, for all stakeholders, we need to make use of the new or fourth industrial revolution. Right. There will definitely continue to stimulate the new division labor among all countries. Sure. But in a globalized world, how to avoid for the wide, for the wide between countries. Second, I think is as a partnership. Partnership, because this is a required partnership not only among the member states, governments themselves, also private and public partnership for all. Third is capacity building. I think capacity building, especially for those still weak, I mean for the developing countries, LDC countries. So for member states, business community need to be in a position to help those still in the weak, those in the need, to build up their capacity. Right. Because you see, we cannot just keep the narrow down the wide in words. We need to do something. Right. Third, I think that the cooperation. So I think for all stakeholders, we need to change both the mentality and the value for cooperation. That's why I mentioned for the past 300 years, since the people entered into the Industrial Revolution, all governments, being sector, focused more on competition. Right. Competition has contributed to the evolution, development of human society, especially to the Industrial Revolution. Sure. But in the next Industrial Revolution, we need to bear in mind the world changed, the world has been globalized, we need more cooperation.
I have a couple of examples on your question here. I mean, we mentioned a few of them already. Right. Artificial intelligence, you have the robotics in different forms, virtual reality. All of that will happen with different type of magnitude and impact. But underlying these trends and products and services to the consumers, you also have a technology that needs to catch up. Right. Because today there are limitations in if I take my industry, then the mobile technology, 4G is not good enough for virtual reality and the robotics and minimizing the delays, etc. So here 5G concretely will be a key enabler to take the next step into the fourth industrial revolution, to really realize all the opportunities that we have. So getting it right on 5G, then I come into my earlier points I made, the understanding of the impact of the technology and the investments needed and predictability needed to make those investments from a huge industry that are dying to invest but don't have all the prerequisite to invest. So that's also a big call to regulators and politicians and shapers around the world to understand that and make it easy for companies to start investing in technology to enable the products that are out there and the services that the consumer starts to scream for. Yeah. So it's a big thing. Yeah,
no, that's great. Yeah. That's great. Well, this is a fascinating conversation, especially getting the different public and private sector perspectives. But I think the one common thing that we can take away from this is that everyone has a role to play. Cooperation is better than competition in the lead up to the SDGs, and that we're going to have to make some big investments, but that the potential benefits are going to far outweigh the challenges. So it's exciting times ahead.
I agree on that.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today for SDG Live, and thank you to everyone who tuned in to watch us today. Please follow along the rest of the week at SDG Live, #SDG Live, or sdglive.com. And we will be here again tomorrow to talk about our three key themes for the week, which are gender equality, financing progress, and technology for social good. So thank you all once again, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.